Good evening and welcome again to this another in the series of The Elephant in the Room. And once again, I'm joined by Professor Makau Mutua, speaking to him for the second time this evening. Uh, Felt it was important to discuss developments in America first, but of course, Makau is also well known as a very incisive and profound commentator and analyst of Kenyan of Kenyan politics and constitutionalism, and has been involved in the struggle for the constitution that we have now and the kind of democracy that Kenya enjoys right now. And so I wanted to jump right into it, Prof. I mean,
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much.
we've had a good Christmas break. COVID, of course, like the rest of the world, struggling with the COVID pandemic. And all the rage here. Of course, we have a major economic crisis that is bubbling. It's been accelerated by COVID, but major political realignments underway that we've discussed with you before, that seem to be gaining momentum. And I wanted to get your take on what's happening and where the Building Bridges initiative is headed. Quite recently, we saw President Kenyatta, issue what seemed to be fairly harsh, rebuke of Deputy President William Ruto, and the division seems to be getting wider. But Kenyans are quite exhausted and also a bit cynical about some of these developments. And I wanted to get your take on what's happening
Yeah,
here.
yeah. So I think the BBI initiative, the Building Bridges initiative, was initially packaged as a velvet glove uh, push for a new social contract
Yes.
in the country, aimed primarily at solving one of the biggest problems in Kenya's electoral cycles, which is violence, where one side loses and then feels that you know they're they'll become marginal within the state, partly because the state is so central to uh, economic livelihoods of people
Yes.
and the allocation of resources to regions and to communities and so on. So this was a problem that, of course, I should say, the evolution has tried to respond to.
Yeah.
But still, the presidency remains imperial,
Yes.
even under the 2010 constitution. And it's still a winner-take-all system.
Yes.
If you run, you lose, you go back home.
Yes.
And of course, that problem has been compounded by the fact that elections in Kenya have rarely been free or fair.
Okay.
My view is that there were only two free and fair elections in Kenya. The one in the early 60s for independence, and the one in 2002.
Two. Yeah.
The rest of them have been stolen affairs.
Yeah.
There's no question about it.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, BBI appeared to have an idealistic, if you will, a noble goal. But very quickly, because of the way it was framed and the players in it, it ran into rough waters. The Ruto camp, William Ruto camp, who had been promised by Mr. Kenyatta that he would take over from him after 10 years, felt that they had now been elbowed out of that line of succession, in which they were the favored ones,
Yes.
and that Mr. Odinga was now holding that position.
Yes.
And so the conflict around BBI has revolved around this question, whether Mr. Ruto is going to succeed Mr. Kenyatta, or whether Mr. Odinga is going to succeed Mr. Kenyatta, or whether a candidate agreed to by Mr. Kenyatta and Mr. Odinga will succeed Mr. Kenyatta. Mr. Ruto cannot fathom in any scenario in which he does not succeed Mr. Kenyatta.
Yeah.
I think that idea is anathema to him. Yeah, complete anathema to him. And they will do anything to get there. But on the other hand, I think the lines of contestation have become so hardened that Mr. Kenyatta now cannot see Mr. Ruto as a successor.
Okay.
And
That's off the table completely.
it's off the table completely. And the statement that was made
So
in my
so sorry, I just want to. So you don't buy. There's not a conspiracy theory, but one of the sort of deep analysis, sort of people who are sort of struggling with it say, oh no, actually, at the end of it, Kenyatta and Ruto are working together, have been working together, and the whole BBI thing was let's contain Odinga. He's growing old, and then he fades out, and Ruto takes over. That it was a plan all along. So you don't buy that kind of conspiracy theory.
No. The state, the Kenyan state is not that conniving.
Okay.
It's just not that conniving. And in any case, why would they go into that sort of arrangement, which might, just because of what I've been seeing, looking at the press and other places, cause Mr. Ruto a heart attack. I mean, he is so beleaguered. He has lost his hair. The guy is beleaguered. So he's picking up weight. It's very strange. So I should say, what I want to say basically is that I think what Mr. Kenyatta said in Western Kenya was essentially his statement to Mr. Ruto that you will not succeed me, and I do not see a circumstance in which you will succeed me. And in that context, he also ruled out Mr. Gideon Moore.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, which is very interesting. I mean, he told Mr. Gideon Moore, okay, so your father gave it to me, but I'm not going to give it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to give it to you. You're going to have to wait your turn. So, Mr. Moy is a casualty in the war between Mr. Ruto and Mr. Kenyatta.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a collateral damage.
Okay.
Because Mr. Kenyatta, it is not as though Mr. Kenyatta has just woken up in the morning and said, I want to see ethnic inclusion in this country. That is not what is causing him to talk about inclusion.
No.
No, it is not. He just wants to block, Mr. Ruto. So the battle lines are drawn, my brother.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's going to be a very, very hard slog from here on to 2022. I think that I'll be interested to see what Mr. Kenyatta does with IEBC.
Yes.
I'm watching that very closely because Mr. Chebukati cannot be relied on by Mr. Kenyatta. I don't think so.
No.
Something has to happen there. The second thing that I'm watching to see, is whether Mr. Odinga is willing to say to Mr. Kenyatta, let's become political godfathers.
Yes.
So that we can defeat Mr. Ruto.
Yes.
With another candidate.
Yes.
Yeah. The problem with that scenario, in my view, and I've heard various scenarios thrown out, is an alliance of Mr. Musyoka, Mr. Mudavadi, Mr. Gideon Moy, perhaps Peter Kenneth, from Central. And then on the outside, I've heard a discussion about Dr. Mukisa Kitui being a compromise candidate. Okay, as a fresh face.
Yes,
I've heard that, and I will not dismiss that. The problem with Mr. Kitui, Dr. Kitui rather, is that he's not a household name.
No.
So he has a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah.
And Mr. Ruto may just run, him off. Mr. Ruto's machine might just chew him and spit him out.
Yes.
So this leaves, in my view, on the political playing field, Mr. Odinga, who, by the way, I would still argue will be the strongest candidate.
Mm-hmm.
In his own right, but also with the machinery of the state.
Yes.
Working with Mr. Musyoka, Mr. Moy, and Mr. Mudavadi.
Yeah.
I could also see Mr. Mudavadi, by the way.
Yes.
As a flag bearer.
Yes.
With Mr. Odinga stepping aside.
Yes.
Okay. I can also see Mr. Musyoka as a flag bearer.
Yes.
Mr. Odinga is standing aside.
Yes.
Yeah, and creating a new narrative of a new leadership. So this is what I see. But what happened in Western is critical.
Yes.
Mr. Kenyatta has planted a flag, and that flag is not being planted in the sand.
Yes.
It's been planted on top of Mount Kenya.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's for me. It's good that you raised the point of the IEBC, and it's point taken. Chief Justice Maraga has just gone into retirement.
Yes.
That's another institution that's critical. That the Supreme Court came out of the 2010 Constitution.
It's huge. It's huge. And I'll tell you why it is huge, John. I'll tell you why. People do not pay attention to something.
Yes.
I'll tell you why it's completely huge.
Yes.
It is huge simply because you look at what this coalition of Mr. Odinga and Mr. Kenyatta is trying to do.
Yeah.
That coalition is going to use every tool in the box.
Okay.
To dismantle and destroy Tanga Tanga. Now, whether they succeed is a different question.
Yes. Okay.
But they're going to try.
Yes.
And one of the tools that's going to be used, I can just tell you, for free. You don't have to take my word for it. Chapter 6 of the Constitution will, through political convenience, come alive.
All right.
And that will be very difficult for you and me to say, well, we should not support, the application of Chapter 6 because we've always wanted Chapter 6 to be implemented.
Yes, that's
this
right.
makes the leadership of the judiciary very important.
Yeah.
Because that is a path to Chapter 6.
Yeah. So it will be weaponized for this time for political reasons.
Well, I don't know. Now let me say, I don't call it weaponization.
No.
No, I don't. What I say to this, and I've said this before, we cannot allow the perfect to be the enemy of the good.
That's true. That's true.
I've always people say, John Kidongo, or so and so, committed this crime, and they say, well, if you touch John Kidongo, people will say you are touching our person.
Yeah.
Well, when shall we ever touch anyone?
Yes, exactly. That's
if
true.
we cannot touch one person.
That's true.
Yeah. So I mean, the notion of weaponization, I understand the language.
Yes.
Yeah. But I take it with a grain of salt.
Great as all. That's good. Let's move. Prof. In your long struggles, you ended up in Harvard. You're now a distinguished professor in the U.S. But you had to flee Kenya into exile in Tanzania and University of Dar es Salaam.
Yes.
And we've just finished, of course, elections in Tanzania late last year. We have elections in Uganda this week. And both of them not looking tidy at all. I mean, the Tanzanian one was pretty untidy in terms of the provenance of the entire process is highly dubious. And it seems as if we're headed in the same direction in Uganda. At the same time, Prof, we are seeing in Ethiopia a situation in the biggest region, the biggest country in the region with the largest sort of military force. What is developing into what could be an extremely intense and destabilizing, regionally destabilizing conflict. And I just wanted to get your take, first of all, on events in Tanzania, Uganda, and Ethiopia, and how this fits in this region, especially now that, to an extent, the West, led by the US, has withdrawn, especially from its moral leadership. That it's always
very important.
That it has withdrawn from the aircraft carriers are still there. The drones can still kill people. But in terms of the ability of an American ambassador to issue a statement to say we are distressed by the arrest of Makau Mutua, and that has some impact in a society, that has been diminished now. You can see with the way the Ugandan election.
It's very sad. It's very sad, John. And as I was saying earlier, I'm hoping that Joe Biden is going to rebuild
Yes.
some of this confidence in the moral voice of the United States. Because I think you can just almost trace the decline in the U.S. voice, to the rise of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
You can almost correlate them. Obama was less hands-on.
Yes.
But don't forget that Obama was also a beloved person internationally.
Yes.
You remember that the speech that he made in Cairo.
Correct.
On the Arab world.
Yes.
And the youth and democracy. You remember that.
Yes.
So I don't think Obama did anything to diminish the moral voice of the United States.
Yeah.
I think what has happened under this buffoon in the White House that has really diminished this voice. So how can now a U.S. ambassador speak in Uganda under these circumstances? It is impossible for people to hear him or her. So let me say that first. The second thing I simply want to say, and I'll come back to this U.S. role, is that perhaps the state that is most reliant on the United States is Uganda.
Correct.
In the region.
Correct.
Yeah. It's Uganda. And it's in Uganda where U.S. influence can most be felt.
Yes.
I think. Not even in Kenya or even in Tanzania. Because Tanzania has this independent streak, that you don't want to be lecturing Tanzanians.
No.
They'll tell you to take a hike.
Yes.
Okay. But Museveni is a rogue president running a rogue state. And rogue presidents running a rogue state have no internal legitimacy. And so therefore they clutch onto external legitimacy. And that for them is the United States.
Yeah.
So long as the US is not willing to really return Museveni
Yes.
to the parameters of a more predictable democratic space.
Yes.
He'll be there until he dies.
Yes.
One of my regrets really about Obama's diplomacy
Yes.
in Uganda was that he did not forcefully make himself heard when Museveni was changing the constitution, to be elected again.
Yes.
I think he could have stood his ground there and told the guy to sort of step aside. He did not. And that is sad.
Yes.
So Uganda to me is a country that is almost, beyond hope.
Oh.
Yeah. Because of this person.
Yeah.
There's no line of succession. There's no one. If Museveni just gets up today and collapses or gets COVID, it'll be a very strange place. And given their history, it doesn't speak well to what might happen.
Correct.
Okay, it just doesn't.
Doesn't.
There's a big vacuum there. There's no party machinery. There's nothing to, gin up a succession that is legitimate. Okay, that's one.
Yes.
For Tanzania, which is very close to my heart, it's a very sad story, in a sense, because I think CCM did not have to bogart and use strong arm tactics to really retain power. Personally, I've spoken to Kikwete, I've spoken to Kappa, I've spoken to these guys. Magufuli's predecessors. And these were essentially guys who understood the importance of the state, speaking with a voice of empathy, mobilizing the people with a soft voice, even though the party had a lot of power in it. Remember, it was Mwalimu who actually taught them how to do this. When they said that they didn't want a one-party state, Mwalimu said, no. Let us have a multi-party state. Let the majority actually carry the day. He is the one who took them there.
That's right.
So it's quite sad, and and so I hope, my hope is that Magufuli is going to return to the tradition of his predecessors, I think he perhaps, I want to be generous, perhaps he wanted to gain a second term. Okay, now he has gained a second term.
Yes.
And in Tanzania, you cannot get a third term. So perhaps, we'll see something different from him.
Yeah.
But I was not happy with the election. I was not happy with it. And CCM needs to pay attention to the people's needs.
That's right.
Building these huge, big elephants, roads and so on, when people have nothing to eat below them, it's not good. And then, of course, handling of COVID,
Yes.
denying that COVID exists. And it's unscientific and not acceptable, in my view. So I think those are not things that I really, really am happy about Tanzania. The big dog in the region, Ethiopia, is a country that is politically backward.
Okay.
It has never really gotten rid of its hangover as an empire, in which the Amhara and the Tigrayans have alternated to control the state, mostly the Amharas, to be quite frank with you. So I knew that once TPLF was descended from the state,
Yes.
that the TPLF would kick up some storm.
Yes.
And they did.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because Mr. Abiy has just purged them from the state.
Yes.
And so they have retreated to their homeland in Tigray. I think where I have a problem, I have no problem with the decentering of these groups from power, whether they are the Amhara or whether they are the Tigrayans or others, and the power devolving now to the Oromo or a person of Oromo descent, which in a sense is pretty much in keeping with what Mr. Kenyatta was trying to say, perhaps not in good faith, saying that the state cannot just be owned by two communities.
Yes.
The Oromo are the biggest group, after all, in the region.
That is right.
They're the biggest group.
That's right.
So it made sense at some point that you want to make them feel that they have actually ran the state. Okay. So Mr. Abe is fine. My problem with him is how he has gone about managing the transition. He has appeared to be impulsive. He has used the tactics of a strong man. I'm not quite sure about the bombing of Tigray. There could have been other methods, because I think that he has a goodwill of other communities in Ethiopia. In a face-off with Tigray, he has other communities that will come to his support. Who chafed under the TPLF. So that's quite sad. And for a country that is backward politically, and I use that word advisedly.
Yes.
A backward political culture, because they never really developed, a good functioning self-government, and they never transitioned from the empire to a republic properly. They've never really transitioned. So that's the problem that I see there. And of course, the possibility of a collapse in Ethiopia is always there.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the tremendous harm to the region.
Yes.
Because you have, on the one hand, a non-state in Somalia. Yeah. You have Uganda, which is teetering on the brink with, an aging president who could, not be here tomorrow. You have Kenya, which is in, crisis itself. I mean, the region could go up, could easily go up in smoke. It could go up in smoke, and that to me is the scariest part.
Yes.
And then of course you have Al-Shabaab, which is spreading its wings everywhere, in Mozambique, even in Zambia and other places, in Kenya, in Uganda and so on. So it's a rough neighborhood.
It is, and so this is an important time, and it's a moment for the East African community and the African Union to rise up to important challenges. And they've never been that quick, but one gets sort of a sense that they're beginning to pick up that we're on our own this time, and especially with the difficulty.
Yeah, they're on their own. One thing that I should add here, John, is that if I had my druthers, if I was part of one of these heads of state with a voice like Kenya or even Tanzania or even Ethiopia,
yes,
I might ask for a regional political union.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that would tamp down some of these internal problems. Yeah. I really would do that. Because I think we've now demonstrated clearly that these states left alone are not really viable. They're not really viable.
Fully agree.
It's sad to say, but they're not really viable.
Fully agree. Yeah. And ironically, one of the smallest states in the region, Rwanda, which is criticized because of its political model.
Yes.
The leadership seems to be fairly clear in that position that actually the answers come from integration.
They come from, yeah. And of course, they will talk like that because they are a very tiny place.
Yes.
So, and they know that they will benefit because they are well organized. If there was a union, yeah, they will benefit.
Fine, it's fine. That's fine. That's
fine.
No,
it's fine. It's completely fine. And but to get there, we need leaders who have some vision.
Yes.
And we don't. Yeah. We just do not.
So we have a bumpy couple of years ahead for East Africa and the Horn.
We do, and I should say that what happens in Kenya in 2022 will be a defining moment for the region.
Okay.
If you get a leader who is inward looking, and who wants to consolidate power and perhaps extend his own power beyond the constitutional limits that are there,
yes,
then there will be a big problem. They will not have time to look at the region as a whole.
Yes.
They will just be interested in a project of consolidation, which is why, in my view, I would like to see a leader who is transitional in 2022. Yeah,
who's not worried about the election, who's not worried about, who's not looking inwards, looking to consolidate so that they can get that second term.
They can get a second term and perhaps even a third term.
Yes.
And so what I would like to see is, I would like to see if there's a coalition of folks, I would like to see them pledge to serve just one term each.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a view that Maina Kea has propagated, which I think it's actually attractive.
Yes.
If it's Mr. Mudavadi or it's Mr. Odinga or whoever it is, or Mr. Kalonzo, I'll just do one term. Yeah. But I should say here before you go that you should run for governor of Nairobi.
You flipped that on me, Makau.
No. I just think that I've seen the candidates that are being put forward, and my heart bleeds for my capital city. So we are absent here. We are absent. We are nowhere to be found.
Yeah, we are. And being asked to choose, between, sometimes a crocodile and a snake. The choice sometimes not that palatable, and
the choice, either of them will eat you up.
Yeah.
Well, so I just meant to mention this on camera here, that people should put pressure on you and ask you to run. What do they say? They say that if we do not enter into politics,
that's true,
we are doomed to be governed by our inferiors.
That's right.
And of course, we cannot complain.
No. I shall. That's a big topic that I shall leave for another day. I can always depend on you to provoke.
You wouldn't declare here that you're going to be running.
But the
other person actually that there are two other people that I think would make great governors. By the way,
yes.
One of them has disappointed me more recently. I think David Lee has a good brain.
Yes.
He can throw in his hat in the ring. I don't know why he's supporting candidates who can't even read a contract. He should perhaps run himself.
Mm.
And then I was thinking about Abdul Mohammed,
Mm.
the lawyer.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's not like you can see clearly. It's not like we have that there are no people of substance who can run.
Mm.
They're there,
Mm.
and one of them should just say, "To hell with it! I'm going to put my hat in the ring."
Professor Makau Mutua, as always, provocative, incisive, and always a tremendous pleasure to speaking to you. I'm sure we're going to be speaking before the month is up, because I'm reading here that it seems as if this process in Congress is being concluded as you had predicted. It seems to be headed in that direction.
As we speak, let me just. I'm just looking at my account here for a minute. If you give me a second.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Let me see if the votes are there. Okay, now the vote is 9 Republicans have voted to
impeach.
To impeach. 183 have voted no. The totals are now 200 yeas, 183 no's.
Yes.
So this is passing.
Okay, it's passing, yeah. Okay.
It's passing. Yeah, they just need about 17 more and it's over.
Okay.
Yeah.
First time in the US history for a president to be impeached twice.
What a scarlet letter.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 scarlet letters.
Exactly.
I mean, I think there had been before Mr. Trump, there only been 3 impeachments.
Yes.
Now there are 5,
They're
and he's responsible for 2.
2.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. And of course, you've I'm sure you've followed the developments within the industrial class here.
Yes.
But they're just cutting him off.
They're withdrawn. He's the PGA, the golf, the golfing, and the like. So we watch closely. So it's what has happened in America has made us realize also the centrality of America to democracy globally.
Yeah.
That even though people were laughing their heads off when the Capitol Hill was being invaded, there was a sense of nervousness, especially amongst countries that love freedom.
Well, many countries would have been overtaken by that event. Yes. Completely overrun.
Correct.
But now we are seeing a process of fighting back.
That's right.
A reversal. And of course, as you said earlier, we saw the votes in Georgia. These are remarkable developments. So I hope that we are now going to a safe harbor. Let's see. Let's wait and see.
We hope for the best.
Yeah, but let's talk again soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Professor. Again, we'll be speaking again soon. Asante sana.
Much appreciated. Thank you so much.